From the moment I opened my eyes to the world, faith was an ever-present force in my life. I was raised in a small town in Tennessee, where belief wasn't just something we practiced on Sundays, it was the foundation of our daily existence. My mother, a beacon of kindness, dedicated her hands to the church, preparing warm meals for the congregation and sewing garments for those who needed them most. My father, a man of silent strength, spoke few words but carried an unwavering devotion to God in every action he took. The air of my childhood was filled with the soft hum of hymns, the rustling of well-worn pages of scripture, and the scent of fresh bread after Sunday service. Faith was tangible in our home, it wasn't merely spoken about, it was lived. As a child, I felt an unexplainable pull toward something greater. I would sit for hours listening to the elders of our church recount stories of faith and redemption, hanging on to every word as if they contained some hidden key to understanding life itself. At 16, I stood before the congregation for the first time, delivering a sermon that even in my youth, felt as though it had been placed on my tongue by a force beyond my own comprehension. It was in that moment that I first understood. My life was meant for something beyond the ordinary. Years passed, and my journey took me far from the small chapel of my childhood. I found myself in Atlanta, leading a thriving ministry filled with people seeking hope and healing. Each day was a tapestry of prayers, counseling, and unwavering devotion to the work of the Lord. Our church became a sanctuary for the lost, a place where broken spirits could find restoration and weary hearts could be renewed. Yet even in the midst of such purpose, an unshakable unease began to gnaw at the edges of my soul. It was as if something unseen was calling out to me, urging me to look beyond the familiar, to question the very nature of existence itself. I began to wonder, what truly lies beyond this life? Are we merely living a fleeting existence, or is there something far more profound awaiting us? It was in the quiet hours of the night, when the world outside lay still, that the dreams began. Vivid and unsettling, they consumed my thoughts. I saw cities trembling as if shaken by divine hands, buildings crumbling to dust, flames licking the sky in a chaotic dance. Faces appeared, lost, searching, desperate for a light to guide them through the darkness. These were no ordinary dreams. They felt like warnings, urgent messages from a realm beyond our own. Each morning, I woke with my heart pounding, a deep-seated certainty growing within me. Something was coming. The more I tried to push the visions aside, the more persistent they became. I could no longer ignore them. I could no longer silence the call reverberating in my soul. Then came the day that changed everything. It was a Sunday like any other. The church was filled with the murmurs of devotion, the warmth of shared faith, and the anticipation of the message I was about to deliver. But as I stood at the pulpit, a sudden searing pain gripped my chest. The congregation's faces blurred, the ground beneath me shifted, and in the blink of an eye, my world went dark. I was falling beyond the realm of the living, beyond the known, and into something far greater than I had ever imagined. Darkness enveloped me. It was not the suffocating void of nothingness but rather a deep, endless expanse, an abyss that seemed to stretch beyond the confines of time itself. I could feel my body fading, yet I was still aware. My senses were heightened, as though I had been freed from the physical limitations of my earthly form. A strange silence filled the space around me, yet it was not empty. There was an energy, a presence, a force beyond comprehension. It was neither cruel nor kind, neither welcoming nor forbidding. It simply existed, vast, eternal, unyielding. Then in the distance, a pinprick of light appeared. It was small at first, barely noticeable against the boundless dark. But as I watched, it grew, pulsating with an otherworldly radiance. It was not like any light I had ever seen before. It carried with it an overwhelming sense of warmth, of peace, of something pure and eternal. Instinctively, I knew that this light was calling to me. It was beckoning me forward, pulling me toward a truth I had yet to comprehend. I drifted toward it, weightless, untethered from the constraints of my earthly existence. As I neared, the darkness around me seemed to shrink away, dissolving into the periphery of my vision. The light became everything, a presence, a force, a voice that spoke without words. Then, suddenly, I was no longer alone. Figures emerged from the light, their forms indistinct yet familiar. They radiated an energy that was both ancient and comforting. Their presence filled me with a profound peace, yet beneath that peace I sensed something else, a warning, a message that demanded to be understood. One figure stepped forward. Though I could not see its face, I felt its gaze penetrate deep into my soul. It was as if it knew me, truly knew me, my past, my fears, my every thought and emotion laid bare before it. Then the voice came. It did not speak in words, yet I understood every syllable. It resonated within me, not in my ears but in the very essence of my being. You are not yet ready. The words reverberated through me, carrying with them an undeniable truth. I was standing at the threshold of something beyond mortal comprehension, yet it was not my time to cross. I felt a force pulling me back. The warmth of the light began to recede and a sensation of weight returned, my body, my earthly form, calling me home. I fought against it, desperate to remain in that sacred space, desperate to understand the message in its entirety. But the light continued to fade, and with it, the voices of the figures, whispering final words I could not yet grasp. Then, suddenly, I was falling. The descent was swift, and with it came the rush of sound, of sensation, of reality crashing back into place. Pain surged through me as air filled my lungs, as the weight of my body pressed against the cold, hard floor of the church. Voices shouted my name, hands gripped my arms, pulling me up. My eyes fluttered open, the dim candlelight of the sanctuary coming into focus. I was back, but everything had changed. I gasped as my body convulsed, my chest rising and falling with uneven, desperate breaths. The weight of reality pressed against me like an anchor, pulling me back into a world that suddenly felt foreign. My limbs were stiff, my skin cold, and yet my heart burned with something new, something indescribable. I blinked rapidly, trying to make sense of my surroundings. The church ceiling loomed above me, the flickering glow of candlelight casting dancing shadows along its beams. A hush had fallen over the congregation, their faces etched with fear, concern, and something else, wonder. "Pastor." A voice rang out, urgent yet trembling. I turned my head slightly, wincing as pain radiated through my skull. Deacon Matthews knelt beside me, his weathered hands gripping mine with a force that spoke of both desperation and relief. "You're back," he whispered, his eyes searching mine for answers I did not yet possess. I tried to speak, but my throat was raw, my voice stolen by the enormity of what I had just experienced. Instead, I let my gaze drift over the expectant faces surrounding me, feeling their silent prayers wrap around me like a fragile cocoon. Then it struck me, what I had seen, what I had felt, was not a dream. It was not the product of a fatigued mind or the hallucination of a failing body. It was real. It was more real than anything I had ever known. The light, the voices, the presence. I struggled to sit up, my body protesting with every movement. Hands reached out to steady me, but my mind was elsewhere. My mind was still in that place, on the edge of something infinite, something eternal. I saw. The words came out weak and hoarse, but the moment they left my lips, the weight in the room seemed to shift. Every ear was tuned in, every heart waiting, as if they too had felt the ripples of what had occurred. "What did you see?" a woman's voice asked softly. I closed my eyes, the memory washing over me once more. "I was somewhere else," I murmured, the images flashing behind my lids. "A place beyond this world. A place of light." But there was also something else, a warning. A murmur rippled through the crowd, the anticipation in the room thick enough to drown in. I inhaled sharply, trying to steady myself. I wasn't alone. There were beings. I couldn't see them clearly, but I knew them. I felt them. They knew me, and they spoke to me, though not with words. The congregation hung onto every syllable, the air between us charged with something unseen yet tangible. They told me I was not ready, I continued, my voice stronger now, that I had to come back, that there was something I still needed to do. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears as I let the words settle over the room. There was silence, but it was not empty. It was filled with a presence, a knowing. Then a voice, almost hesitant. "Do you believe it was heaven?" I hesitated, the question echoing in my mind. "I don't know," I admitted, my own uncertainty shocking me. "What I do know is that it was real. More real than anything I've ever known. And whatever I saw, whatever I felt, it wasn't just for me." I looked out at the sea of faces before me, their expressions a mixture of awe, fear, and hope. In that moment, I realized that my life would never be the same. The vision had changed me. And now it was time for me to find out why. Sleep became a distant memory in the days that followed. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt the pull of something unseen, as if the very fabric of reality had shifted around me. I wasn't the same man who had collapsed at the pulpit. My soul had glimpsed something beyond comprehension, and I was no longer certain how to exist within the ordinary world. News of my collapse spread quickly. The congregation, already shaken by what they had witnessed, now came to church in numbers greater than ever before. They weren't just seeking a sermon, they were searching for answers. and the weight of their unspoken questions pressed against me like a tide, relentless and inescapable. I found myself retreating into solitude, seeking refuge in prayer, desperate for understanding. Each night I asked the same question: why? Why had I been shown these things? Why had I been sent back? What was it that I was meant to do? The answer did not come in words but in visions. It started as a whisper, a feeling of being watched, guided. Then the images returned, clearer now, as if the veil between this world and the next had thinned. I saw a great city, its towering buildings bathed in golden light. But as I looked closer, that light began to dim. Shadows crept in from the edges, swallowing the streets, consuming everything in their path. People walked blindly, unaware of the darkness that loomed behind them. Some saw it, their eyes widening in horror, yet they did nothing. Others reached out toward the light, desperate to hold on to it, but their hands passed through as if it were nothing but an illusion. Then a voice, not spoken but imprinted upon my very being, spoke with authority: "The world has forgotten the truth. You must remind them." I jolted awake, my breath coming in ragged gasps. My body trembled as the weight of the message settled upon me. I was being called. The next morning I stood before my congregation, my heart pounding. The church was packed, every pew filled, the air thick with anticipation. I could feel their hunger, their need for something greater than themselves. And for the first time since my return, I knew what I had to say. I stepped forward, the murmurs of the crowd falling into silence. I let the quiet stretch, let the moment settle. Then I spoke. "I have seen beyond this life. I have walked the edge of eternity and returned. And what I bring to you now is not just a story, it is a warning." A ripple of unease moved through the room. I saw hands clutching Bibles, heads bowing, bodies leaning in closer. They were listening. "The world is slipping," I continued, my voice steady. "We have become blind to the darkness that creeps ever closer. We have traded the eternal for the temporary, the truth for comfort, the divine for the mundane. And if we do not turn back, if we do not awaken, then the light will fade completely." Silence. Then a single voice: "What must we do?" I looked out at them, at the weary and the broken, at the hopeful and the lost. I saw myself in their faces. And I knew that this was why I had been sent back. "We must return to Him," I said. "Fully, completely, without hesitation. We must repent, not just in words but in action. We must live as though the kingdom of heaven is near, because it is. And we must be the light in the darkness, the ones who do not falter when the shadows rise." A deep stillness filled the church, a collective breath held in anticipation. Then, slowly it began. One by one, people rose to their feet. Some came forward, falling to their knees at the altar, tears streaming down their faces. Others stood where they were, eyes closed, lips moving in silent prayer. The air was thick with the presence of something far greater than any of us. It was as if heaven itself had leaned in, waiting. And in that moment I understood. This was just the beginning. If this message has touched your heart, I ask you to take a moment to do something simple yet powerful. Leave a comment with your name and your city. Let us know where you're watching from so that we may lift you up in prayer. And if you believe that this message needs to be heard by others, please like this video. Your support helps spread the word to those who need it most. ****. In the days that followed my return from the edge of eternity, the urgency within me only grew. The vision had seared itself into my soul, a message not just for me but for all who had ears to hear. And yet, how was I to deliver it? How could I, a mere man, bear the weight of such a divine burden? I withdrew from the world, retreating into prayer, seeking guidance from the only one who could provide it. My nights were restless, my mind plagued with images of the crumbling city, of the darkness creeping in, of the voices that had spoken without words. The world was standing on the edge of something unfathomable and time was running short. Then the dreams changed. No longer was I merely a witness. Now I was walking among them, the lost, the blind, the desperate. I saw their fear, their confusion, the longing etched into their faces. And then a hand reached out to me from the shadows, trembling yet hopeful. "Lead them," the voice commanded. I woke with a start, my heart pounding. There was no more doubt. The calling was clear. I had been sent back for a reason. And I could not remain silent. That Sunday I stood before the congregation once more, though I felt like a man standing before the storm. I could see it in their eyes. Curiosity, anticipation, but also fear. They had heard my words the previous week, had felt the shift in the air, and they were waiting for what would come next. I took a breath and spoke. "We stand on the edge of something great," I began. "Not a blessing but a choice. a reckoning. We have been given the gift of free will, but we have strayed so far from the path that leads to life. We have built our cities on sand, our faith on convenience, and our lives on fleeting pleasures. And now the storm is coming. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some leaned forward, others stiffened. A few shook their heads, unwilling to hear. I have seen what waits beyond this life, I continued, my voice unwavering. And I have been given a message: return. Return to the one who formed you, to the one who has never abandoned you. Return before the night falls, before the last light flickers out. Silence. A woman in the front row clutched her chest, eyes brimming with tears. A man to my right bowed his head, hands clasped so tightly his knuckles were white. But there were others, faces set in stone, disbelief flickering in their eyes. They wanted proof. They wanted signs. I could offer them none. You must choose, I said simply. Not because you have been forced, not because you have been frightened, but because the truth stands before you, and you must decide whether to embrace it or turn away. A single voice rose from the back. What happens if we don't? I met the man's gaze, my own heart heavy with the weight of the answer. Then the darkness will come, I said, and you will not see it until it is too late. The church was no longer just a building, it was a battlefield. The war was not fought with weapons but with hearts, with choices. Some would heed the call. Others would not. But I knew that I had done what I was meant to do. I closed my eyes for a moment, offering a silent prayer. Then I stepped down from the pulpit, knowing that my work had only just begun. The days following my sermon were unlike anything I had ever experienced. My words had set something into motion, something I could not yet define. People came to me in numbers I had never seen before. Some were desperate for guidance, their hearts open, yearning for truth. Others came with skepticism, their eyes filled with doubt, searching for any sign that my words had been mere dramatics. And then there were those who came not to listen but to argue, to dismiss, to tear apart what they did not understand. I welcomed them all. Each night I found myself in deep prayer, my soul restless with a burden I could not shake. The visions continued, now sharper, more urgent. I saw the world teetering on the edge of something vast and irreversible. Cities stood proud but hollow, their foundations built not on faith, but on arrogance. People moved through their days blind to the darkness creeping in around them. And in the distance I saw the storm, rolling, relentless, inevitable. I woke in a cold sweat, gasping for air. The message had been clear. Time was running out. And so I prepared. On Sunday I stood before the congregation once more, but this time the air was different. The room was packed beyond capacity. People filled the aisles, stood against the walls, peered through the doors from outside. They were waiting, expecting. I gripped the edges of the pulpit, my pulse steady despite the storm raging within me. I do not come to bring fear, I began, my voice carrying through the stillness. I come to bring truth. And the truth is that we have allowed ourselves to grow numb. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some nodded. Others frowned. We have convinced ourselves that we have time. That the world will continue as it always has. That there will always be another day, another chance to turn back. But what if that chance is slipping through our fingers? What if the time to choose is now? A woman near the front clutched her Bible to her chest, her lips trembling. A man in the back shifted uncomfortably, his jaw set in resistance. I have seen what awaits us if we continue this path, I continued, my voice firm, unwavering. A world where the light fades, where people become lost in themselves, where the things we hold dear crumble into dust. And I have seen the only way to salvation. The silence in the room was thick. The weight of the moment pressed upon us all. We must turn back to Him. We must repent, not just in words but in action. In our hearts. In our lives. In the way we love, the way we forgive, the way we stand against the darkness that seeks to consume us. The tension in the room snapped like a thread. A sob broke the silence. A man fell to his knees, his hands gripping the pew before him. And then, as if the dam had burst, others followed. People wept openly, some raising their hands in surrender, others bowing their heads in silent prayers of desperation. I stepped down from the pulpit, moving among them, feeling the presence of something far greater than myself in that space. I prayed with them, for them, beside them. And as I did, I felt the certainty settle deep within me. This was only the beginning. The storm was coming, and we had to be ready. My dear friends, if you feel the stirring in your heart, if you believe that now is the time to turn back to the truth, I invite you to join us. We are a community, not bound by walls but by faith. We do not seek wealth or fame only to share the message that has been given to us. If this has touched you, please like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share your name and city in the comments so we can pray for you. You are not alone. We stand together in the light. The days that followed were unlike anything I had ever experienced. The weight of my vision, of the message I had been given, had shifted from being a personal burden to a mission I could no longer keep to myself. The response was overwhelming. People came from miles away, drawn by something beyond mere curiosity. Some came in search of comfort, others in desperate need of answers. But all came because they had felt it too, the shift in the air, the unease creeping at the edges of their souls. The world was changing, and deep within they knew it. Yet, despite the countless souls who had begun to awaken, there were many who turned away, who dismissed the message as hysteria or paranoia. They shook their heads, laughed, and carried on with their lives, blind to the storm gathering just beyond the horizon. But I knew what was coming. I had seen it. The darkness was spreading, moving in ways unseen yet felt. It crept into hearts, into homes, into places where faith had once been strong but had since grown weak. I watched as families turned against one another, as anger and confusion consumed those who had once stood firm. It was not mere division, it was spiritual warfare. One night, as I sat in my study, staring at the candle flickering before me, I felt it again. The presence. The call. My eyes grew heavy, my mind slipping between wakefulness and something far beyond sleep. And then I saw him. Jesus stood before me, clothed in radiant light, his gaze piercing yet filled with an indescribable love. His presence held no condemnation, only sorrow, sorrow for the world, for the path so many had chosen. And then he spoke, not with words, but with truth that burned into the very depths of my soul. Go. Tell them I am coming. I gasped, jolting awake, my hands trembling. The air in the room was thick, electric, as if heaven itself had pressed against the veil of this world. There was no more time. The moment had come. The next morning, I stood before my congregation for what I knew would be the most important message I would ever deliver. The church was overflowing, but beyond the walls, thousands more watched, their eyes fixed on me, waiting. The world was listening. I stepped forward, taking in the sea of faces before me. Then, with every ounce of strength left in me, I spoke. This is the final call. My voice echoed through the sanctuary, over the speakers, through the screens broadcasting the message across the world. The time is now. We cannot wait any longer. He is coming. And we must be ready. A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd. Some wept. Others stared in disbelief. But I did not waver. The signs are here. The world is shifting. The storm is not coming, it is already upon us. And only those who stand firm in the truth, who seek refuge in the presence of the Lord, will endure. I took a breath, my heart pounding. He has not abandoned us. He is calling us back. He is offering mercy, but we must choose to accept it. A woman sobbed openly in the front row. A man fell to his knees. And slowly, one by one, the congregation followed. Hands raised, prayers whispered, cries of repentance filling the sacred space. It was not fear that gripped them, it was conviction. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of the moment. This was why I had been sent back. This was the purpose of my return. And though my journey had led me through darkness, though I had stood on the edge of eternity and been given a glimpse of what lay beyond, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. The light still shone. And as long as it did, there was hope. My friends, if this message has moved you, if you feel the call within your heart, do not ignore it. The time is now. Like this video, subscribe to this channel and continue this journey with us. There is another message waiting for you, one that will change your life. Click on the next video and step deeper into the truth. You are not alone. We walk this path together.